The movie starts in the year 1939 in Willis, Texas, when racial discrimination is at its peak. We see a shoe-shining boy named Bernard Garrett who polishes white men's shoes in front of a bank, not only to earn money, but also to get business ideas from the rich. He aspires to become a wealthy banker in the future. While polishing the shoes, he silently listens to businessmen's conversations, and as they leave, he takes out his diary and writes down the valuable information he has gleaned from them. His father tells him that he cannot achieve his dream as the black people are totally under the foot of the white people. The movie fast forwards to 15 years later, and the boy has now become a young married man who now shifts to Los Angeles along with his wife Eunice and children. The racial discrimination in Los Angeles is less as compared to Texas, and he plans to begin his business in Los Angeles. They start to live in the old house of one of their relatives, but Bernard vows to move out soon. He begins his career as a real estate agent and looks out for houses for sale in the city. He notices that the black community has no shelter to live in, whereas the white people have spare houses. He realizes that black people have rental needs and financial strengths, but there is no market for them in the city. He sees the white people's apartment in bad condition, with weeds and other bushes in front of the houses. In this regard, he goes to the owner of the building and asks him to sell him half of the apartments, as half of the building is still vacant to let. Bernard proposes his plan. He will give $30,000 now and the other $5,000 when he has rented out the apartments. After much argument, the owner does not agree, though he likes Bernard's idea. But before he is left, he sees the owner's calendar, which shows that it was given by a local bank manager. He goes to the bank directly, where he finds the manager sitting, who has sent the calendar to the owner. The manager's secretary does not let Bernard meet the manager as she discriminates against black people. However, he goes out and stands there for hours waiting for the manager. As the manager approaches, he intercepts him and informs him that he knows one of his VIP customers and that the business he will conduct will benefit the manager if the loan is approved. But the bank manager rejects his offers. That night, Bernard receives a call from the owner, who asks him why he gave his name to the manager to get a loan. Bernard apologizes to him, but surprisingly the owner appreciates his courage and he vows to get him a loan from the bank. Bernard receives the first loan of his life and owns the property in the city. When Bernard is repairing his property, an old woman comes from shopping and asks him what he is doing there. He tells her that he is renovating the building because he now owns it. As the old lady goes inside the apartment, the police come and investigate Bernard's ownership of the building. He shows them the copy of the real estate certificate, and the police leave believing that Bernard is the owner of the building. That night, when Bernard comes to the apartment, the old lady tells him to leave as this is not the time for renovation, but he calmly replies that he is not a renovator but the owner. She leaves the building a few days later because she cannot tolerate living with black people. The building gets quickly filled, and Bernard gives the negotiated payment to the former owner of the building. Seeing Bernard's business acumen, the owner offers to start a business with him. Bernard chooses the house and calculates the income, and the old owner negotiates the transaction and signs the contract. With the owner in front, white people will not know that they are doing business with black people, and they will split the revenue. Bernard agrees with the owner, and the cooperation between the two goes very smoothly, and they start making a lot of money. Bernard also shifts his family to a big mansion. He does not fight back when he is discriminated against. Rather, he follows his rules. Rational, economic, and maximum profit are his ultimate goals. However, life is not always the same. There may be ups and downs. One day, the former owner dies as he is an old person, and the heir to his property becomes his wife, who severely discriminates against black people. She disagrees to cooperate with Bernard and offers to buy his shares at a very low price, and she also threatens Bernard that if he does not sell his shares, she will sue him in court. In the era of discrimination against black people, the manager refuses to prove Bernard's name on the document as he is a white man. After that, when he is still standing in the bank, a plan hits his mind. There are 4 banks in the building, and each of the banks has closed its doors to black people. He plans to buy the whole building so that no one can discriminate against him. Bernard goes to see a black real estate developer named Joe in Los Angeles, whom he has already met when Eunice was with him. He tells the real estate developer his plan. At first, Joe refuses to give him a loan because the price of the building is extremely high. Seeing Bernard's rationalist approach, Joe agrees to give him a loan. Bernard assumes that when he owns the building, the banks will not reject his application for a loan. Although Joe is a wealthy man, he is also subject to discrimination because he is a white man. There is still a problem, as the black people couldn't make transactions with the white people directly. For this reason, they need a white man who will lend to them, and they will be on his back. Bernard has a white boy named Matt Steiner working for him in renovation. Bernard believes Matt is an honest, ambitious yet inexperienced man, so Bernard and Joe teach golf, how to behave with wealthy people, mathematical thinking, and real estate. Matt lives up to their expectations and becomes proficient at playing golf. One day at the golf club, Matt meets the owner of the golf club, and he starts off the talk of buying the bank building. However, Bernard has no idea how to sign a deal or talk confidently with entrepreneurs. Bernard first counts the number of lights off in the building, calculates the number of vacant rooms, and then calculates the estimated value of the building. Bernard makes Matt memorize all of the possible numbers that he could be asked during the meeting with the owner of the building. Matt surprises the building owner with his fast calculations when he is sitting across the table. In the end, Matt strikes the deal and the building goes to Bernard for $1.56 million instead of its original value of $2.4 million. After that, whenever Bernard and Joe enter the building, the president of every bank will come and shake hands with them. With the support of the banks, Joe and Bernard's real estate business grows rapidly, and they earn a lot of money. They raise the distinction between the white people and the black ones, as many blacks start to live with the whites. In 1963, Bernard takes his family back to Texas to meet his father, Britton Garrett, and his father tells him that he is proud of his son's achievements. The next day, Bernard, along with his son, visit Texas, and he takes his son to the bank where he used to polish shoes. They see a small boy who refuses to polish their shoes and says only white people can get their shoes polished. Texas has now become the most racist state in the USA. Bernard has the idea that he should help the black community in his town as well, so he plans to buy the bank in Texas. The next day, he calls on Bernard and proposes to him a plan to buy the mainland bank in Texas. At first, Joe seems reluctant because he knows the racism in Texas is at its peak, but he agrees with Bernard to own a bank in Texas. This time again, their frontline soldier is Matt, who is asked to negotiate with the owner of the bank, Robert Florence Sr. Once the deal is signed, Bernard starts to work for the black community and approves a loan for them. Things are going smooth until Robert Florence Jr. starts to investigate the loans that the bank is issuing. One day, Florence sees Matt meeting Joe and Bernard, and he threatens them by showing a letter from the US Treasury Department about the loans. After Florence leaves, Matt suggests that they should purchase another bank and shift their problem loans to that bank. They start high in order to buy the bank, but Bernard wonders who will run it because none of them have adequate banking experience. Matt tells them that he will run the bank if he is given a chance. Some days later, Matt receives a call from Florence Jr. telling him that one of the clients wants to withdraw his money from the mainland bank. To make the matter worse, a federal bank examiner arrives at Moore Marlin Bank, which Joe and Bernard have recently purchased. The examiner points out many absurd problems on several loans, and he becomes a little angry with Matt. Florence Jr. is the actual person behind all this, as he discriminated against black people. Sometime later, Matt sells the Marlins bank without letting his partners know. In the meantime, Joe and Bernard rush to the mainland bank, but as they arrive, Florence Jr. is already there, and the examiner who revokes the license of the bank. Bernard and Joe confront the FBI agents as they leave the building. To save himself, Matt goes against his partners in the Senate the next day. Bernard and Joe see their fortunes decimated when the federal government seizes their assets following the McClellan, a senator, hearing. Florence Jr. purchases the mainland bank, and Joe and Bernard are sentenced to prison. Several years later, the two get out of prison, but surprisingly, they are found to be happy even after spending a long time in prison. Joe reveals to Eunice that they have properties next to each other in the Bahamas. It turns out that the man Matt called the night before the testimony was Bernard, and he asks Matt to do him a favor before the federal government seizes their assets. The movie ends here. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on notifications if you enjoyed the video so you can see more like it. Thanks for watching.